Okay, we'll get started. Welcome to City Council meeting tonight. Thank you for attending in person and those that are on watching us on TV as well. You'll notice Mayor Leifson is gone to power meetings with the power organization, so he won't be joining us tonight. And Councilman Scobes is not present as well tonight. So we still got enough to get work done, and we're happy to be here. So we'll start off our meeting tonight with a prayer given by one of our scouts that's in attendance tonight, Thomas Westover. If you'd like to come up and start us with a prayer, that would be great. This way is good. Yep, the camera's right there.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. We're glad that we could come to this City Council meeting today. And please with us that we can have a good time. And we thank Thee that we could all be here. And we thank Thee for all that Thou hast given us. And in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Thomas. We've asked Councilman Gordon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would the audience please rise? Please repeat the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. Okay, first item on our agenda is a TAP award. Brent Oakson of the Utah Local Government Trust. You here, Brent? Yeah, come on up.
Hello, thanks for your time, everybody. I'm here to present an award to the city for a program that they've taken part in for a second year in a row now. And for those that don't know, we're the trust, and we are the insurance provider for your work comp coverage. And we insure over 500 different entities around the state. And part of that, we have this program, which has several elements that cities and towns and counties put in place to reduce losses and claims. And there's some really good elements of that. And Tyler Jacobson and Seth Perrins have done a great job this year in making those things happen here at the city and being able to qualify for this award again this year. So makes 2 times in a row. And with that, we give out a discount on your work comp coverage. So it qualifies you for a 3% discount at your next renewal. So there's some good things that go with that. But just to talk a little bit about this program, the Trust Accountability Program, it helps to reduce losses in as far as employee injuries, as far as sewer systems, as far as returning work for employees, and a lot of good things that just help to overall reduce the losses and help your premiums over time. So there's some really good things. It's a win-win for both organizations, and we really appreciate your partnership and working together on those things. So with that, I'll leave you with this nice award, and I'd like to congratulate the city and also everybody that was involved this past year in 2017 for making it happen. I'll leave this with you today.
Cool, great.
Thanks,
you, Brent.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
It's heavy. Want to see it?
Yes. It is heavy.
Great building up there. We appreciate your help in allowing the League of Cities and Towns to meet there all the time. So, yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks, Brent. All right. Okay, next item on our agenda is the public comment section of the agenda. This is where any of the public can come up and speak to the City Council and talk to us if you'd like on TV, on live TV. No one? Not even you? You don't want to talk? Okay. That will take us to council comments on our agenda. We will start Councilman Argyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I just report we met, the Mountain Eagle Water Agency met on Monday, and just discussions still continuing to come up with a groundwater plan. I'm on the committee that is helping to design that, and just moving forward with that as we try to engage and learn more about the water and continue to conserve and make these 7 cities a viable part of this county down here as we preserve and conserve is the word I was looking for, our water down here, so that we're able to grow and continue to grow throughout the next 10, 20, 30 years. Thank you, Mayor.
Great.
Or Councilman.
Councilman, thank you. Kind of kind of an important item, the water, especially in a dry year, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman Gordon.
We met as a chamber, and I don't know if Scott or Tyler could pull up maybe the upcoming, the little clip that SFCN made for the Thursday meeting for our downtown. While you're doing that, we're having a special meeting this Thursday for some public input. Do you have that? Maybe, possibly. It was emailed out by the chamber. Here, yeah, there you go. But our chamber, we had our monthly chamber meeting. Nothing really out of the ordinary, other than some calendar items to report, and some working on some ideas to get downtown, and that's what these guys will pull up. Schedule-wise, I don't have much for you to tell you about. I think we have a ribbon cutting next week that I'll let you know about for a yoga place that I expect Chad to show up to and be ready to do some yoga. While they're looking that up, I had my Wi-Fi clock, I call it, installed on my sprinkling system. We talked about it last council meeting, and the city received a grant, and with that grant money, they'll come to your home and they'll install a new clock. They'll take the old one off, and they'll either recycle it or let you keep it, the old one, and you'll have this new clock that we talked about. And my wife, I was in Cleveland over the weekend, and she said the lawn's looking a little rough. It's been a hot weekend, and I turned on the sprinklers from my cell phone and blew her mind. And so it's free. You can go to the city website and sign up. It's a wonderful opportunity. So it looks like we've got this clip that I wanted to have these guys show.
Spanish Fork City, in coordination with UDOT, is considering options to improve safety, traffic flow, pedestrian access, and the aesthetics of Main Street between 500 North and the Arrowhead Trail. You are invited to attend a public open house on Thursday, June 21st from 4:30 to 6 p.m. in the City Council chambers. City staff will be present to gather feedback and answer questions. For more information and a link to a public survey, visit SpanishFork.org.
Thanks for letting me put you on the spot and playing that for us. I think it's important when we have opportunities like this to come out in the community and let your voice be heard. So if you have an opportunity and you'd like to give some input this Thursday in this very room at 4:30, we'll be discussing the future of our Main Street and some ideas, and collaborating with UDOT on those. And so would love to see anybody that would like to come and offer some input on that. And that is all I have, Mike.
Thank you, Councilman Gordon. I'll one-up you on the sprinkler system.
Okay.
We have integrated our Rachio system with Alexa. So we can say, Alexa, tell Rachio to turn on zone 4 for 3 minutes, and there go the sprinklers.
Okay.
Don't even have to take out my phone.
You always got to do that.
If this is on TV at my house, it probably just came on because listening through the TV.
Embarrass me in front of the scouts like that. Sorry, guys.
Right?
He does that
Did
a
you
lot.
know that, Chris?
That helps when the neighbor's dog's in your front yard.
Yeah. I've done it when kids are back there, but yeah.
No, you're not.
Good time.
You're not a...
Very good. Saving, like Brandon said, it's saving us water, but our grass is as green as it's ever been. So great job getting that grant, and still available, right? Sprinkler systems still available?
Yeah, so we can do about
3,500 total, right?
I think the number that we can do with grant money is about 3,100, and we've had a little less than 700 people sign up so far.
Oh.
Now this summer, we can only install, we probably have time to do at the most 1,200. So after 1,200, we'll start scheduling those installs next summer.
Do you have 1,200 scheduled right now, or can people still?
7.
A little less than 700, so we could probably take orders for another 500-ish. But we'll keep taking sign-ups even after that, but we'll schedule those for the beginning of next year. So
Well, again, I'd encourage residents, do a Google search. That's a $300 system just to get the Rachio system to your house, and then you'd have to figure out how to install it. Here for free, the city will come out, install it. Great kid that came out and did it and checked all my sprinklers and set it up and gave me my phone and said, you're ready to go. So,
Yeah, it's great. It's a
Yeah,
great
mine
program.
took less than, 45 minutes. And I was there and we walked through it. They put in what kind of sprinkler heads you have and which zones, take pictures of the zones. And yeah, it was easy.
Yeah, it's working out really, really well. We're not getting hardly any complaints, and the complaints are pretty easy that we get, but we're getting a lot of great comments.
You have to have Wi-Fi and you have to have a smartphone
Yes, you do have to have
or an
those.
iPad that you could run it from.
You almost have to have those now to just survive. So
Yeah, that's accurate.
well, great. I dare anybody to find another city that's giving away free sprinkler systems like that. Councilwoman Beck.
I want to share my sprinkler story. So ours was supposed to come on at 10 a.m. and I was sitting outside and it was like 9:30. My husband was going to go to work and he said, well, I just got notification that it's windy apparently and the sprinklers are going to skip its sprinkling system. And there was not any wind. He's like, this is not even working. Left for work an hour later. I swear we were in a windstorm. So I texted him. I said, it's blowing like mad now. So it's pretty accurate. It was pretty good, Chris. It may be. So I have some pictures. It's been a busy 2 weeks. The first thing I want to share with, I'm sure a lot of our community already knows, is bottom left-hand picture. Miss Spanish Fork competed in the Miss Utah pageant last week, Dejana Talba, and she is 4th runner-up to Miss Utah. This is huge. Dejana is 18 years old. Jessie Craig, who was crowned Miss Utah, this is her 3rd go-around. I've never been to Miss Utah. I learned a lot of stuff in the pageant world over the week. And these girls have been competing, and Dejana at her young age and being there, and she won, one night she won talent, the second night, maybe the first night she won swimsuit, second night won talent. That will be the last time that they'll ever do the swimsuit competition, so she was the last one to ever participate in that. And then also on her, when she did her talent on Saturday night, which is the final competition, her shoe either broke, she was doing ballet on point, either broke or fell off, and she still was crowned 4th runner-up. So she was amazing. I'm super excited. There's another picture I saw, current Miss Spanish Fork, Morgan Olson right there. She was up there supporting Dejana every single night for 6 nights. So thank you to the current Miss Spanish Fork and her royalty to be up there supporting these girls. It's super encouraging. And then the Little Miss pageant, top left right there. So years ago, and Brandon may have more history on this, wasn't the Little Miss pageant kind of started to prepare Miss Spanish, like prepare these? Tell us more, Brandon.
I called it the Accelerated League.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Pageants.
So Dejana was one of our Little Miss. And look, first year, she's 4th runner-up. So the Little Miss pageant, it was a Friday and Saturday night. Girls from 5 and 6 years old up to 15 and 16 competed, were crowned, shared their talents, their ability to just get out and be in front of an audience, which is super scary, I think. And they just nailed it. They did so good. So Heather Harms is the director of that, and she does it all on her own time, and she has a crew helping her, but that was a fun event. Youth City Council, they have a lot of new kids. The seniors have graduated, and the Youth City Council has new kids, new officers. They were there at the health fair Saturday helping there, so I just want to give them a shout out. And a shout out to Mike Mendenhall and the Spanish Fork Healthy and Active Lifestyle. I know he'll talk more about that, but that was a great event. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
And then today, Mayor asked if I would go up to this event where Wendy Osborne from Tabitha's Way was selected. It's from Select Health, an insurance company here in Utah, gave $2,500 grants. And all of the businesses that were awarded these grants are businesses that help their community. So Obviously, Wendy from Tabitha's Way is a local food bank. They had like the Hope Squad, different suicide groups that help people, you know, save their lives, QPR training, lots of different things from foster care to how to feed people to living, just so many great things. But it was so cool that Wendy was awarded that $2,500 grant. She said will feed 25,000 meals. So it's a huge help. Wendy gives so much back to our community. So I just wanted to give that shout out, and that's all I have.
Very cool. Thank you. A couple of things that went on last week that I was involved in. It's been released already, and Scott, great job in releasing this to the citizens. But just another point of reference and congratulations to the city for successfully closing on the 65 acres in the river bottoms. Such a huge success that I think now has been shared around and most people know about, but I wanted in a public setting for anybody that didn't know about it. The city was able to acquire some ground in the river bottoms area that's just outside Spanish Fork City, but such a huge success for our trail system, for the open space that's in the river bottoms that people are passionate about protecting, and just a kudos to all the work that the city's done in the current staff and current council, as well as past staff and past councils that can make situations like that even possible. I get to meet with some other cities around the state through the League of Cities and Towns that I'm involved in, and sometimes when a price tag as that comes up, that 65 acres is not cheap to purchase, Spanish Fork City is in a good enough financial position to be able to make that happen and make that happen for the residents. So if you haven't seen it shared on Facebook, on the city's Facebook page, I would, is it on the website too? Can you get there from the website, I guess?
It's right along Poplar right here.
So this is Poplar Lane, Tree Road, in the river bottoms that some of you are familiar with, but the 65 acres that completely fronts that on the east side is now a closed transaction completed by the city, and will offer the ability for the trail to come off 1400 East there, down the switchback and connect here, so you can get from the east side of town now all the way to the river trail without having to be on a road. And that road was very dangerous for people, as it was explained well in the post. There's been cars parking on that for years now because it's an attractive part of the trail, and it has been some near misses, some scary times with kids going up and down the road to get on the trail. But now with the trailhead that'll happen next to the river, with restrooms and parking, and then the trail coming along that whole road, will be just such a blessing for the residents of Spanish Fork. So kudos to again the administration and to everybody that was involved in getting that wrapped up. I think it will show to be a success for the city for decades to come. So cool stuff. Stacy mentioned the Active and Healthy Wellness Fair that we had on Saturday. Maybe if you can go to that Active and Healthy Facebook page, Scott. If residents haven't joined that page, please search for SF Active and Healthy Community. You can see some pictures of Saturday, but you'll also be made aware of the other cool events that are coming up regarding the Active and Healthy Community. We rolled out a little bit of a new logo called Fit City. There's the floss party. You can see that went on, but there was a whole day of events there from 9 to noon, and even after that it was just fun to see so many people. We ended up by an estimate of count that we doubled our attendance from last year, so there were over 1,200 people there this year that enjoyed all the booths, the free booths, and the free information about health that was there, the hot dogs, the chips, the drinks, and Seth climbing a 4,000-foot ladder to the top of it. That's dancing right there. Oh, it was jazzercise. That's what you're doing. You're doing jazzercise. Now, all the great local businesses from up and down Main Street that helped out, that came there and set up booths, and every single one of them that I got a chance to talk to after and thank them for coming, they all said they are in next year and appreciated the city doing that. I know I'll forget some names, but I wanted to attempt to say some of the names that, to pull an event off like that can, same as Fiesta Days that we've all seen. It looks like a well-oiled machine from the outside of it when we all get to go enjoy it, but there's a whole lot of work and planning that goes into the front end of that to make that happen. Dale, Seth, Paul, Tyler, Angie, Susan, Bart, Bronco, Mark, Janice are just a few of the people that helped pull that day off and make it happen. So appreciate everybody coming down and watch for more information on that page for other events and other happenings we'll do. If you didn't win something, that was a big thing. A lot of people were hanging around to win those great prizes. We give away prizes just about every week on that Active and Healthy Facebook page for somebody doing something active and healthy. So again, join that page if you haven't already. The other thing that happened last week, it was this week, just Monday morning, was the League of Cities and Towns board meeting that we had. We also had the Legislative Policy Committee meeting, talked about some legislation that will be coming up in the 2019 session, also in the special session that will happen in the legislature. And some people ask why that's important. It's important for you as community members, I think, to be aware of that stuff, for us as council people to be able to relay that, because this is the closest, local government's the closest to you. And so any concerns you might have for what you read in the news about maybe legislation that's coming up or that your initiatives that you might be wondering about, please feel free to contact your legislators directly. They're there and we'll respond to you as well. But feel free to reach out to any of us as well, as we're trying to weigh those different aspects of government and what could pass. And basically the message that I'll leave you with there is simply that this is the closest, easiest form of government to come talk to is your city council that's held every couple of times a month, versus maybe going up to Salt Lake in the middle of a session and trying to get airtime up there or the ear of a legislator. So we're fighting for more local control all the time and saying, let residents have more control of what their city looks like than maybe statewide initiatives. So that's going well. We're talking about huge problems, huge issues that cover the state, like the housing gap and different initiatives, transportation, everything else. So it's going well up there. That's all I have for last week or this week and last week. And now we'll move on. We'll move on to Spanish Fork 101, which, Dave, are you going to kick this off and welcome Mr. Wilson to our council chambers?
Absolutely. So, Mr. Wilson, welcome. It's no secret that a big change for the community is going to start to happen here very soon. We really appreciate Jason taking some time tonight to join us to tell us a little bit more about Intermountain Healthcare's plans to construct a hospital here in the community. And without any further explanation, I'll just let him dive right in. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. It'd probably be an understatement to say I'm excited to be here. This is kind of a big deal for me personally, and I hope it's a big deal for all of you and for the community. My name's Jason Wilson, and I represent Intermountain Healthcare. And both sets of my grandparents raised their families here in Spanish Fork. And 10 of their 11 children were born at the Hughes Memorial Hospital that sat just a couple blocks north and a couple blocks west of here. And that hospital closed in 1969, and for the last 49 years, we haven't had a hospital operating in the city of Spanish Fork. And so we're working to fix that. Roughly 20 years ago, when I started down the road as a hospital administrator, I never imagined I'd have the opportunity to work on a project that would involve a hospital in Spanish Fork. About 2.5 years ago, I moved up and took a job running the American Fork Hospital, which I currently do, but was asked if I wouldn't mind taking the lead on planning the Spanish Fork Hospital. So for the last couple of years, I've been doing 2 jobs, but in some small way, it's been awesome to do something good for the community that's given so much to me. And so I'm thrilled to be able to walk through some of these slides and maybe answer some questions on what we're doing and where things are at with the Spanish Fork Hospital project. First of all, just a little bit about Intermountain Healthcare. We have 23 hospitals that run up and down the state of Utah, 1 in Idaho, but really a very Utah-based company. We have our roots in a gift that was gifted to the community by the LDS Church back in 1975, where they operated a hospital system and decided that they needed to get out of that business and set up Intermountain Healthcare as a nonprofit organization to run their hospitals. And so we've grown from there. I believe that the number of hospitals was quite a bit lower than 23 at the time, but we've grown into 23 hospitals statewide. We have a medical group of 1,400 physicians in 180 multi-specialty clinics up and down the state. That doesn't include the large number of affiliated physicians that we work with and partner with all the time. In this community, there's a lot of them. You've got the Canyon View Clinic, Revere, and a lot of other physicians and providers that we work with. We operate Select Health as an insurance arm of our organization, and that's proven to be a great partnership in helping to manage health and working with the communities. You talked about the Select 25 event, cool things that they're able to do at Select Health. We employ 39,000 people. We're the largest private employer in the state of Utah, and one of the largest employers soon to be here in Spanish Fork. And as I mentioned, we operate as a not-for-profit, meaning that any revenue that we generate as a bottom line gets reinvested in our communities and in the operation of the hospital and advancing and continuing to provide technology and care in the hospitals and the clinics that we operate. And just to give a sense of our part of the charge that was given to us by the church when they started Intermountain Healthcare was that we continue and always maintain a mission as a charitable organization. And you can see up there that in Utah County alone, we provided $33 million in financial aid in 2017. And that's assistance in the form of helping those that have an inability to pay, but do have need of care. It also involves a number of different programs to support low-income clinics, nursing programs, education programs, and a number of community initiatives around healthy living and helping people live the healthiest lives possible, which is a nice little run into my next slide. Our mission is to help people live the healthiest lives possible, which extends beyond the walls of just the hospital. In a hospital, obviously, we're caring for people oftentimes who are sick or injured. Sometimes it's a new baby or a happy thing. But we really have a mission to keep people healthy. And so you'll see a lot of our efforts are focused on the front end of a person's experience and keeping them out of a hospital and trying to keep them well in the first place. But there are times that we all need care in our lives, and we strive to provide the very best health care in the world when those things come around. So some of our objectives in constructing a new hospital here in the community, one is to provide access to our communities here in the southern end of Utah County, and I'll have some slides that kind of show how that works. To alleviate some capacity constraints, we're building a great big new hospital in Provo that you've probably seen. Even then, we're going to struggle to keep up with the growth in Utah County, and we need an access point here in the south end of the county. We want to innovate care. We're looking at doing a number of things unique at Spanish Fork Hospital. Innovative care, things with telehealth technology. We're actually looking at a new birthing center model that will premiere at the Spanish Fork Hospital. We'll have your traditional labor and delivery unit and nursery care, but we'll also be doing a low intervention midwife run birth center for those that want a more low intervention birth in a hospital setting or at least with access to a hospital. So it will be in the clinic that we build adjacent or as a part of the building. But it'll be kind of a cool new model to provide care. obviously, this is a big part of our business. We serve this community already. A lot of our patients come from this part of the community, and we have good patients. We have good partners like Spanish Fork City that we want to be able to partner with and have a closer tie with. And so there is a good market that we appreciate, and a payer mix that we want to make sure we're working with. And a population health, really having better access to health care results in better health outcomes. When it's not as hard to get your screening for whatever you might need, the more likely you are to get it. If it's hard to get, a lot of times people just won't do that. So we want to make sure that we're helping the population stay healthy. From a growth perspective, I just throw this slide up to show some of the growth. And I know that the north end of the county gets a lot of press. You can see that up in the Saratoga and west side, northwest quadrant of Utah County, we're looking at 150% growth by the year 2030, which is a lot. But when you look down on the south end, Springville South, we're looking at 81% growth in the next 12 years, which is roughly 100,000 people that will be moving into this part of the state. So on top of these communities are much larger than they were when I was a kid. We're looking at tremendous growth going forward. We do have a really collaborative landscape in Utah County, and I think that's a great thing. It's healthy for the community. Not everybody is going to buy Select Health Insurance or another one of our United partner insurance companies. A lot of people buy other insurance plans that would send them to one of our partner or our community hospitals that we tend to collaborate with more than compete. There is a level of competition that always exists, but if you look up and down the state, or at least the county, we've got HCA, their hospital, the Mountain Star Hospital in Payson. Revere has a clinic, a beautiful facility they built in Salem. We're looking to put that hospital right there in Spanish Fork. There's a hole that's existed between that Revere clinic and the hospital in Provo. And then going on up, you can see we've got a Steward facility up in Lehigh with Mountain Point, and then the hospital there in American Fork. And there's a lot of clinics in between, but that hole right there on Highway 6 and I-15 is a hole we've recognized and we want to fill. One thing I will say is we don't anticipate that there will be a tremendous impact on the Mountain View Hospital in Payson. Kevin Johnson is a good friend of mine, the administrator there, and we've talked about this project several times, but really people tend to go where their insurance sends them. It'll change some ambulance patterns, and a few births will go different directions. I've experienced that as the administrator of the American Fork Hospital with the new Mountain Point Medical Center opening up in our market. Shifted things around a little bit, but didn't have a dramatic impact on hurting us and our ability to provide care. And so we do think that this is a healthy move for the community, that it's not going to negatively impact any of those community hospitals or clinics that exist here today. So a little bit about the project. First of all, we're working with HDR Architects. They're a fantastic design team, ranked number one globally. You can see among healthcare architecture firms, and healthcare architecture is quite a bit different than building an office building or a bridge. So we are really lucky to have them working with us. And they've done other projects in the state, like the new Utah Valley Hospital and the Huntsman Cancer Institute. Oakland Construction is working with us on the build of this hospital. They've done the Intermountain Medical Center project up in Murray for us, Park City Hospital, Dixie Regional Medical Center, and other projects around the state. So they're a very experienced hospital contractor, and we're very confident in working with them. The site location, I think most of you understand where that site is, but it's there kind of on the back side of the City Creek development. You can see that we have 3 different parcels there, and the big one in the middle is where the hospital is going to go. We do have plans for the 13-acre piece that over time we have several different projects that we've looked at that we might develop on that piece. And then the 5.4 acres down below, we're working with some of our partner physician clinics on developing medical office space for that 5.4 acres. And we hope to have something there about the time that we open the hospital or not too long thereafter. This isn't the easiest graphic to see, but it kind of shows you The hospital, I think the sign that we have is over on this corner. The hospital will actually sit back just a little bit. It won't be up on that front corner. It'll sit back on the property a little more. It gives us more flexibility over time as we grow. We know this hospital is going to need to grow over time. It's built to expand. We didn't want to get ourselves stuck in a corner on the front end of the property that would be hard to grow from. And as we worked with the design team and the architects, we realized we needed to be a little bit set back so we could have that expansion path in the future. And that's a picture of what the hospital will look like. As you look on the left side, this is the hospital building. The emergency department will sit on the west side of the building, facing I-15. The front will face south, have lovely views of Loafer and Mount Nebo. And then on the right-hand side, we will have a physician office building, a clinic. It will have an Instacare. It will have a pharmacy, an outpatient pharmacy there with a drive-through, and a number of specialties that will be housed in that building to take care of patients. As I mentioned, there'll also be a midwife-run birth center in that building that would be immediately adjacent to labor and delivery, but would be accessed through a different entrance. Here's a view of it looking more west, so you can see the right-hand side of the building looking at the sunset. A little bit about the project. It's about a 223,000 square foot building. About 146,000 square feet of that is hospital, 65,000 square feet of medical office building, and then there's a nice sized central utility plant that will be behind the building to the north. And again, we know that the building that we're building is going to need to grow. And there has been a lot of debate, do we overbuild, shell in a bunch of space and then do it that way, or do we just build a building that we can add on to easily over time? Hospitals are extremely expensive to build. Latest estimates are around $500 a square foot. If you compare that to your home, which is maybe $100 to $20 a square foot, that's pretty expensive. So it's not why we don't feel like it's a wise use of our resources to dump money into a building that may not be occupied for 10 or 15 years, but rather wait until we need that and that demand is there, and then we will expand at that time. But it is built to do that without disrupting operations, at least not significantly. Some of the services that we will provide, it's got a 12-bay emergency department. We anticipate, I don't know if I have some of the volumes that we're anticipating, but we think we'll see about 16,000, 17,000 visits a year in our emergency department that we'll pick up in that ER. Labor and delivery, we've got 5 labor and delivery rooms and 12 postpartum beds designed into the project, a 16-bed med-surg unit, 4 ORs, and we anticipate a busy surgery service there, 2 gastroenterology labs. Imaging will have CT, MRI, and a lot of other fun imaging tools to take pictures of you. I mentioned physician office space, pharmacy, and the birthing center. And feel free to ask questions if you have any as I go through this. Annual volumes, 1,500 admissions. That's somebody that's laying in a hospital bed for a medical admission usually. 82,000 outpatient clinical visits that would be in our clinics, 4,500 surgeries, 1,400 newborn deliveries, and about 16,000, as I mentioned, emergency department visits that we anticipate in that hospital.
Annual.
That's a year. That's per year. So it will be very busy right from the get-go. We are planning a groundbreaking on August 13th at 3 p.m. Some of you may have gotten an email. If not, you're going to be getting one very soon. And a paper invitation probably in the mail as well. We'll do it both ways. And it will be, that's our address, 765 East Marketplace Drive. So we look forward to inviting the community and certainly some of our community leaders out to that event. We've just barely started really promoting the project. You may have noticed that we haven't done a lot of promotion until this point. Our board just voted last month we had our final approval. We went through a set of approvals in the design process and this and that, but we had to make sure we had the funding released to build the project, and the funding has been released by our board. So we were waiting for that before we got everybody too excited. It's been picked up by a number of media outlets, including, you can see the Herald, but Fox 13, ABC, and my favorite, Telemundo, has picked that up. So, we're going to do our best to make sure that the community is aware that we're coming, and really increase our partnerships in the community. This really opens the door for us to be more involved here in Spanish Fork City. So with that, there's a lovely view of what the site looks like now. We anticipate it looking very differently in a couple of years. It's about a 2-year construction project. The cost of the project is north of $150 million. It will be perhaps the most expensive building project south of Provo. I'm not aware of anything that costs more than that. Maybe there's something, but it'll certainly be a large investment here in the city of Spanish Fork. So we're pretty excited. With that, I don't know if you have any questions for me.
1,400 babies a year, I think we can, that's 3.83 a day. I'll bet we can do better than that. I'll bet we beat that.
I think so. I think we could beat that.
Is that a challenge?
It's a challenge to Brandon and his
I'm
family.
done contributing.
We actually feel like that's an area that could grow over time, and that's an area we're ready to expand as soon as the need is there. So, yeah.
Well, I neglected to mention during that active and healthy discussion of our fair and everything, it's been 2 years since Intermountain Healthcare has been a partner with us in that $33 million that you give back every year to Utah County. We've been the recipients of at least $225,000 of that to start our active and healthy movement. And I apologize, I neglected to mention that is what started this. And so you put your money where your mouth is in prevention there, because you've helped this community, not just in dollars, but in real lives, be healthier mentally and physically, and so we see it as just such an awesome partnership that's happened, and then this coming is just awesome.
I'd like to add to that too. With the Fiesta Days, you guys are sponsoring a couple different events, which you're supporting your community, that we're growing and learning and coming together during the funnest time of the year next month, and you guys are some big sponsors, so thank you.
Yeah, I think just a couple things that I think you'll see more of with us being in the community. It makes a huge difference having a hospital in your community. I've experienced that a couple times in different communities where I've lived and worked, but just the community involvement's ramped up a little bit, but also there's more nurses buying homes in your community. There's more doctors buying homes in your community, and cars and filling up gas, and techs and housekeepers, and it does provide employment, as well as easier access to health care and that connection with the community. So it's going to be a great thing, a great partnership going forward.
Do you know how many in Spanish Fork you'll be able to employ?
So we're looking at roughly 400 employees at the hospital when we open, give or take a few, but roughly about 400 employees. That doesn't include our medical staff, which is our physicians that work in the hospital, or their employees at their clinics. So there's kind of a halo effect that goes up around the hospital. You'll see more pharmacies and DMEs and home healths and long-term care investments in the community as well that tend to blossom around a hospital. So the net impact of the economy is much bigger than that, but we would employ probably about 400 out of the gate.
A couple $1 million a year in payroll, at least.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, just a few.
Couple more than that, but yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
for coming,
thanks.
Jason.
And thanks for, I have it on good information that Jason fought hard for making sure this name of this hospital had Spanish Fork inside that name. So we're lucky we have a hometown guy that's going to run this hospital too.
Different?
Was the other option Maple Mountain?
No. We love Maple Mountain. But there has been some question about that. As I work at American Fork Hospital, our naming standards are that we try to put the name of the community where the hospital sits in the hospital name so people can actually find it. Sometimes generic names lead to confusion, and so it makes it a little bit simpler to say this is where the hospital is and this is what it is. It's a hospital. So we try to keep it simple that way. But yeah, so we tried to stay away from other things, but yeah, I'm wearing my red.
He had his Don pride.
Red,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Go Dons.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks so
Hey,
much,
thanks.
Jason.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Okay, I don't know how we top that if going to green waste vouchers. Sorry, Chris, that's some awesome news that, yeah.
Okay, so this is actually the third year of us offering vouchers for green waste. About 2.5 years ago, we did some research into our green waste program. Our district was losing about $800,000 a year in the green waste program. The city's, Spanish Fork City's share of that was about $280,000 a year. That was being lost on that system. We put together a citizens committee with horticulture type people, including the fellow that replaced Sager on the Greenhouse Show on KSL. He got involved, and we got them all together, and we talked about the value of a municipal green waste compost program. And if you go to the Spanish Fork City website, I think Scott's about to put it up, there is a whole section on the findings of that committee, and there's a part of it that says municipal composting isn't as green as you think. And if you scroll up a little bit or down a little bit, it gives a lot of reasons why. A lot of it is involved in the transportation and the mechanical treatment of the green waste, and how there's a lot of fuel used to do that. A lot of it too is, it kind of talks a little bit about how when you take tree limbs and you grind them up and then you go through this composting situation, the compost that comes out of it actually is not as valuable a compost as other composts that you might buy, like steer manure or chicken manure. It actually has a relatively low nutrient level for your plants, and it definitely uses a lot of energy and for little return. And one of the other findings of this committee is you can make a difference by recycling your green waste at your home. And that's where we found the greatest recycling return, was to just do one thing, and that is called grass cycling. Take the bag off of your lawnmower, and even if it's not a mulching lawnmower, just letting that grass get chopped up and put back into your lawn is healthy for your lawn. It preserves water because it provides a cover so that the water that you use to water your lawn doesn't evaporate as much, and it puts nutrients back into the soil, and 90+% of that grass is water anyway, and so it goes away. Some people say, well, I don't want thatch to occur in my lawn, and so that's why they don't. That's why they bag their grass and they put it in the garbage cans. Is they're trying to avoid something called thatch. Well, grass cycling or mulching never causes thatch. That's not what thatch is. Thatch is when the rhizomes, when your grass dies and the roots, the parts of the grass that goes into the roots right at the top of the ground, when that dies, that's what creates thatch. So if you don't want thatch, keep your lawn healthy. And a great way to keeping your lawn healthy is to actually grass cycle. And another interesting thing that this committee found is that when people were taking their lawn clippings and hauling it, again, spending the fuel to haul it to our compost site and then dumping it, that was being separated out and taken to the landfill anyway because it cannot be used in the composting effort. So there was a lot of waste that was going on in the whole municipal composting effort, and we were competing with the private industry that provides valuable compost by subsidizing compost that I want to say the cost to produce, it's right here, was between $80 and $100 a yard to produce this compost, and then we were only selling it for $20 a yard. It's not a good way to compete with the private sector by subsidizing so heavily. Since we've gone away from the municipal composting green waste program, we have saved that $800,000 a year as a district, $280,000 a year as a city, but the district has become much more solvent and is now funding the new vehicles that come, has created a cash reserves policy and is doing very well financially now since that decision. But on the other hand, Spanish Fork City had the problem where we had a service where people could get rid of their green waste for free, and we wanted to continue that service. A main reason is we want to encourage people to clean up their yards. We want to discourage people from dumping their grass over the fence or on a vacant lot somewhere. And we want our community to look nice. And so we started a program, and if you could scroll up, and it's called the Green Waste Voucher Program. If you go to the city website and you go under Green Waste, at the top, you will see a little link here, get your green waste vouchers. If you click on that link, and then zoom. All right. If you click on this link, it allows you to enter your account number, which appears on your utility bill, right here in the upper right corner of your utility bill, and your last name exactly as it is written on your utility bill, and you submit the information, and it brings up a paper with 3 vouchers that you can use in that year. The vouchers have a barcode on them. You can print it as many times as you want, but you can only use 3 of the vouchers, okay? And we scan that, and if we find someone who's used more vouchers, we contact them, and they, of course, are charged for any additional times they use that, those vouchers there at the transfer station. But you can take the voucher, and you can load up your truck or your trailer, whatever it is, with all your green waste. Again, leave the grass clippings in the lawn, and then take it down to the transfer station, and for free, they will let you dump it there at the transfer station and allow you to get rid of your green waste on one condition, and that is you put some sort of a tarp over it so the green waste doesn't fly out onto the city streets. So make sure you tarp it, or else they'll charge you an extra, I think, $5, and then bring it down. You can if you print out the 3 and then you lose them, just print them out again. Just keep track in your own mind that you can only use 3 a year, and we scan them. We go through them all, and if anyone's used more than 3, we'll contact you, and you'll be charged what the fee would have been at the transfer station. So I have a little report for the City Council on this program, how it's been going. Again, I want to remind you the city's portion of the loss, the $800,000 loss, was $280,000 a year. That's how much we were paying to subsidize this mediocre composting program. The first year we spent $6,500 on these green waste vouchers. That was in fiscal year 16. In fiscal year 17, we spent $16,300 versus the 280,000. And then in fiscal year 18, we're wrapping it up right now. It looks like we're at 15,920, so right around 16,000 again. And it's a great service. It's about the same distance to drive. You still can get rid of your clippings, not your clippings, but your green waste. Mostly when you prune your trees or you dig up, weeds and gardens, large weeds and garden type materials. We're spending about 16,000. So we feel like we're providing the same service we were before, but for a lot less money. It's going very well. But I'd like to remind everyone this option's there, and if they have any questions, to call, and we'll help you get your vouchers printed out.
Good budget number that over 3 years, $900,000 roughly, and instead of spending $900,000, we're maybe $40,000 in a program. So
yeah, that was a good $1 million to save.
Pretty good. Good work. Thanks, Chris. Get your green vouchers, print them out, clean up your yard, Brandon.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that takes us on to consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilman Argyle to approve the consent items. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moves us on to public hearing. The first item on our public hearing agenda is item A, ordinance Z07-18, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for the Pierce subdivision zone change. Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Mendenhall. The subject property is located right next to Maple Mountain High School, kind of in between Maple Mountain High School and the Sierra Bonita Elementary School. It's about 5 acres in size, and the applicant simply wants to subdivide it to create a total of 3 lots. There's an existing home on the subject property right now. You can see it there, bottom southwest corner of the property. So today, really, they would just be looking to construct one additional building lot with a road that would go right in between that lot and an existing lot. The property is currently zoned rural residential. They'd like to change the zoning to R112, which would match basically everything around it. As you can see right there, the R112 zoning, everything to the west and to the north. The only exceptions where they think over time are going to be maybe things like schools and churches that might be zoned a little bit differently. We've talked about a number of different things with the applicant over the course of the past really just few weeks. The Development Review Committee reviewed the project, recommended to be approved. Planning Commission did the same thing relative to the zone change, and in fact approved the preliminary plat subject to the zoning being approved by you. That is, the zone change being approved to go to R112. We've talked about abandoning ditches, the applicant's tying into the city's pressurized irrigation system to be able to continue to irrigate the northern part of the property, which, as I understand it, they'd like to potentially continue to do for maybe a long time into the future. We've worked to make sure that the plan that they're following right now could allow for the neighboring property to the east to be developable in the future. There's just one skinny property with essentially no frontage on 100 South between the subject property and Maple Mountain High School, and we appreciate the applicants working with us to identify how as this property further develops and is further subdivided on its remaining part, access could be provided so that potentially an additional part of that lot to the east can be utilized. One thing that, from my perspective, is a big plus for everybody in the area are improvements to 100 South that will come with this subdivision. It's pretty simple, small subdivision, just a couple of lots, but being able to get the last remaining gap, which really goes from this property's western boundary over to the eastern boundary of the neighboring property. We have sidewalk along the remaining part of 100 South all the way over to 2550 East. So particularly where we have an elementary school there with Sierra Bonita, having the improvements done along that north side of the road, we feel is pretty important, to the extent that we think it's important for the city to expend city funds, if necessary, to pay for the improvements or a portion of the improvements to this frontage here, so we don't just end up with a 150-foot wide gap when these improvements are done. And I understand that our folks have reached out to the owner of that, and we're discussing that prospect with the idea that should this property further develop in the future, then they'd reimburse the city at that point in time for anything that we invest now in making those improvements happen. Which again, I think is a great thing for the neighborhood. As we see properties develop incrementally, we always end up with these gaps, and it's nice when they finally get filled in. The last issue, the applicants have talked to us about potentially not requiring them to install sidewalk on the west side of that road that's going to go north from 100 South in the middle of the property. We see no concern in delaying the construction of that improvement. It's not going to go anywhere today. They simply would be required to construct that when the property further subdivides, whenever that is. So we're comfortable certainly with that happening. And that being said, these are the conditions that we think are appropriate to consider tonight. In fact, this goes more so with the preliminary plat that the Planning Commission approved just last week. If I have my dates right, I guess that was closer to 2 weeks ago. And they're pretty straightforward and simple. Again, staff recommends that the zone change be approved. That's really what's before you tonight, which would make that approval of the preliminary plat valid, and the applicants would move forward to be able to submit a final plat and get going.
You said 3 lots.
Looks like 2, right?
Yeah.
So the third one is the big remaining
It's the
part.
the piece that's left.
It's a little bit misleading that way.
And this bricklayer's going to take down that nice fence he has.
Isn't that, yeah.
I hope he knows a good brick mason.
Yeah.
Kind of amazed somebody hasn't helped him with that already, right?
Yes. I think this is a good, because just extending that sidewalk is a good thing. Thank you, Dave.
Completely.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
We'll entertain a motion to go into public hearing if anybody's here to speak to us to this.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Councilwoman Beck and seconded by Councilwoman Gordon to go into public hearing. Councilmember Gordon to go into public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're now in public hearing. Mr. Pierce, is there anything you want to add to this, or have you spoke enough at this podium?
I think we've done enough.
Okay. All right.
He was just excited we're getting a new hospital in town.
We're just excited to have curb and gutter in front of our house.
Yeah.
I've got one issue.
Come up to the
Here,
mic,
Janet.
can you?
You have
Come on,
to.
come
You
on.
have to.
We want to
I
see
know you
ya.
don't want
we want
to.
see
but-
you. We want to hear you. Yeah. Yeah. We needed
You have
someone
to tell
come
us. You
address
have to
this
tell
in
us
this
who you
council.
are and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Tell you who I am.
It's
Janet.
official. All
Janet
7
Pierce.
people watching.
Thank you, Janet.
The only thing is they've named that road next to us the 2060 East, and I propose that we change that and have it be called Country Crossing Lane. Where'd he go? There he is over there. But the only other issue I have with that, if that's 2060, my house number is 2075, and I don't want to get any more of Chad's mail. We've confused him enough. And so it needs to be probably 2080. I don't know if that's an engineering issue.
Have your engineer. Just have your engineer.
It's our engineer that put that on there? Okay, I'll address it with him then. Sorry.
No, you're good.
That's what we need to do. Okay.
You're good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any, no members of the public? It looks like everyone else here works
Motion to
for
go
the
out
city.
of public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Gordon, seconded by Councilmember Beck to go out of public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion up here? Questions for Dave or anybody on this?
Looks like it's been vetted well, but the only other question I had was horses or animals.
They're staying.
I know they're staying, but we're okay as far as how many. You don't have more than going from rural residential to R12.
Does that change at all, Junior?
Well, you're allowed 2 per half acre,
It's not because we can have 2 per half acre.
and you've got okay.
We've got 2.
I just want to make sure that we're well within it.
I thought we was when we talked.
Okay, it's been discussed then. I didn't want to surprise on that. I can't think of anything else that you haven't discussed that's not already been. I love the idea of finishing that section where I can ride my bike.
You've hit that Jersey barrier before, haven't you?
Without near-death experiences, and this will be cool. This is wonderful.
Great access for our kids that go to that high school now. You guys have seen that more often than you want to, in cars and on bikes and on foot, right? Coming by that, so it's a great improvement.
I just want to take an opportunity to give you some advice. When you're driving through the fields with your grandson, Maddox, and you're pointing out the cows and the horses in the fields, you need to stop at the stop signs, and you need to signal, and you need to try and stay on the road. I followed you down through the fields.
Oh boy! Are you talking to Janet or to Kim?
I'm talking to Kim. No, it was Kim.
Wow. The only reason that I'm here is the snowstack is closed. So I don't need
Yeah. Thanks, Kim.
And we'll coordinate the construction of the sidewalk to happen at the same time we're under construction with their front side.
A lot of it's contingent on the neighbors, so.
Sure. Great. Great.
Well, I'll
Great.
make a motion to approve ordinance Z07-18, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for Pierce subdivision zone change.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Beck, seconded by Councilman Argyle for this zone change. Does this need to be a roll call vote? Roll call vote. Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall. Aye. That passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Great work. Next public hearing agenda item is item B, fiscal year 2018 budget revision number 3. Kent Clark with a pile of papers killing more trees. And scouts are gone. He's going to have to throw candy. Yep. Yep. Throw him at Junior. He'll catch him.
Thank you.
Don't look at it yet.
Turn it over.
This is a twist. You ready? Mark, get set, go. Here's the budget revision right here. It's 70 pages. I'm going to go through each one of these pages really close. There's probably about 150 numbers on each page. Not really. So I pulled out in the other one that you have there the most important summary numbers that we're talking about. So this budget revision does not increase the budget, it decreases the budget, and it decreases it by $5.5 million. Those are projects that were, it's kind of like eating dinner on Sunday afternoon, a fast Sunday. You fill your plate up way full and what you can finish. So what we have is a lot of projects that didn't get finished, and so
I've never experienced that.
never had that.
He finishes.
I've always finished.
You always finish it.
Yep.
So the pieces of the pie, the budget will go from $93 million down to $87 million. So that's change on that. Okay? So we'll walk you through how much the change is each one. So the general fund goes down over $1 million. Enterprise funds, most of the stuff's $4 million, and $300,000, almost $400,000 in the miscellaneous in the capital project funds. So that kind of gives you an idea where we're going. It's decreasing the budget is what this is going to be. So if you turn to the third page, I'll give you an example of, this is the revenue in the general fund. So in total, it's going down as far as what the expenses and revenues are, is because of projects that weren't done in the parks. So you can see what that is. And also some revenue amounts have gone up. So property tax is up. So it's basically on page 3. It shows you how we get with the $1.1 million for the general fund. Okay. So one of the big differences in that general fund is in one of the capital projects funds is the river reclamation, and there was a grant budgeted in that fund for $3.2 million. And some of the expenditures what that grant was for. So we budgeted the expenditures. The grant's not going to come until next year, and so our general fund fronted some of those expenditures that was in that river reclamation stuff. And so we transferred from the general fund to the capital projects fund to cover that. And as the grant comes in, then the grant will pay the general fund back. Okay. On page 4, it gives you a summary of inside of each one of those departments in the general fund, which ones changed. You can see the parks about halfway down there is $1.5 million. That changed. The others, most are a little bit ups and downs. So you can see not all the departments even had changes for this budget change. Okay. And the next one's the enterprise funds. Shows you some of those. The sewer one, we're not doing the lift station yet in this budget, so it's moved forward to a future year. And so we just trued up some of those expenditures that didn't take place, took them out. Okay. And the last page is the capital projects. Shows you that on that, some of the expenses in that river reclamation wasn't, we haven't spent them this year, so they're going to move forward to the next year type thing. So that's the only thing that really went down in there. You'll see that that's about it. So it's just a decrease for fiscal 18. So we started last June, approved 18. We've had 2 revisions during the year, anticipating what projects we're going to get done. Now we're at the end of the year, and we never got to a lot of the projects, so we just downsized the budget. Looking forward to 19, and we'll do some of those projects next year. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Maybe have us hitting a century mark next year.
I don't know. We're not shooting for it.
Not a goal? Okay. You guys must not be bankers.
To go into public hearing.
Second. Motion by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilman Mendenhall to go into public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now in public hearing, anybody from the public who would like to... Oh, you're coming up.
I move we go out of public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilwoman Beck to go out of public hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any questions on budget revision number 3 as explained well by Kent?
Thank you, Kent.
Is this a motion here to... Motion here to...
It's, you can do it.
It's in new business to adopt.
It's in new business. You can do it now.
So this is just information to adopt the budget is in new business, but we could do it now?
Number 9, motion to approve fiscal year 2018 budget revision number 3.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Argyle to accept budget revision fiscal year 2018 number 3. All roll call vote. Councilman Argyle?
Aye.
Councilman Gordon?
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall? Aye. Councilwoman Beck?
Aye.
That passes. Ordinance, item C on public hearing, Ordinance 1318, authorizing amendments to the construction standards of the city. Chris Thompson.
Okay. Just wanted to go over some of the major changes is all. And these are found in your memo. The first change was to masonry walls that we're proposing in the construction standards. And that is, we have narrowed down how we want them painted. First of all, we want them painted. As seen by some graffiti incidents, it's very important that you paint these walls so you can quickly cover up the graffiti and still have it blend in with the rest of the wall. And so we went and looked at a lot of different walls that were painted and came up with the ones that we liked. And what we found looked best is if you had what's called a base coat, where you paint the whole wall one coat, and it's usually a light tan or a light gray that kind of blends in, looks more natural with the wall. Then on the base coat, what we have spec'd out are 3 what we call stain coats or color coats that you use rags and you put those 3 different colors on it, and it makes the wall look more natural. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is dictate exactly what type of paint you used for the base coat so that we could keep some of the base coat on hand at our shop, so that if there ever was graffiti, we could immediately respond, cover it over with the base coat. And then we want to dictate the actual 3 types of stain for the reddish brown wall and reddish wall, and the 3 types of stain that can be used for the more brown colored wall, so that we could then hire out and give those color codes to the painting company so they could match and blend in with the existing. So that's now in the standards. I think it's a really good change to the standards. We are now in the process of having all of our walls painted in Spanish fork with this type of coloring system. We think it will really make them look a lot better. Interestingly enough, we bid it out and we went with the low bidder, and the low bidder had some problems, so we had to throw that out, and we're now with the second bidder trying to get that project done. It's been quite the process, but
you're just talking about the walls along backs of subdivisions, main, right?
Correct, along city right-of-ways.
Okay.
But also in this standard is the requirement to paint both sides. We were amazed at how inexpensive it is to paint these walls. And so we're requiring both sides of the wall to be painted, so that if you're a resident and you have one of these walls as your backyard fence, you have a nicely painted wall in your backyard as well. And so that's another change. Before this, you would only see painting on one side if you saw painting at all. So,
with the graffiti incident we had, is this the type of stuff that we can comes off a little better?
Seeing it not absorb the paint that the graffiti artist put on.
So it works really well. Graffiti has a really short shelf life with this system. You could have it gone in a matter of an hour. Good work. The next change to the standards is in regards to mailboxes. In the past, the post office has selected sites for mailboxes. We have a lot of problems with site distance, or placed on corners or on busy streets, and so we came up with some standards that we would like to follow, and created a system where our development engineer will coordinate with the postmaster, and they will decide the sites together, and it will be shown in the actual subdivision plans, so that there's no confusion on where those mailboxes are located. The next standard, I'd like to just give you a little bit of history on. Several years back, the streets division manager and I felt pretty bad about the fact that all of our streets were being paved really late in the year, when it was the worst time to pave. And so we were getting a lot of streets paved in October, November. Some were trying to even sneak in December. And we noticed a huge difference in quality of pavement for work that was done in those colder temperatures. And really the best time to do paving is in July and August, when you have hot temperatures and the asphalt can really cure well. So we made a fairly draconian standard saying that if you were paving after October 15th, it would there would be penalties, and you would have to come in and do a 2-inch overlay in the spring, and you still had to meet the temperature requirements. And the first year had a lot of complaining, but we held to our guns, and the next year everyone paved during the better time of paving, and they put off all the poorer times to pave for the other cities around us. So it worked out really well. I felt like our roads were being paved at a good time. And so this last year, though, we had an incredibly warm fall, and we had 65+ degree weather, late October, early November, and we do not want to be unreasonable. And so we worked on this standard and said if temperatures are 10 degrees higher than what we normally have as a minimum temperature of 50 degrees, so we set it at 60 degrees, then you can still pave after October 15th as long as you meet all the other requirements, and you wouldn't have that 2-inch overlay penalty, if you will, in the spring. And we feel like this is a good, safe requirement, and we should still have the bulk of our paving done in the good summer months. Next item. Any questions on that one? Okay. Next item is we specifically said one sewer service per unit. Next item was if a development had to change the striping in a road. This is mostly for commercial. We are requiring water blasting to remove it. It's more thorough. Sometimes you'd see them try to paint black paint over the markings. It doesn't last very long, and the markings come through, and so we just require it. It's a relatively new technology. They used to do sandblasting, which really kind of hurt the road, but water blasting seems to be a good technology for that. The next item is if there's any asphalt sections over 3 inches in depth, they need to pave it with 2 passes. Next one was we updated, APWA has been updating their specifications, and so we updated our specifications for what type of pavement we wanted in each different use, depending on whether it's a parking lot or a local collector road. Next one is there are several instances where a road might curve and you're forming up sidewalk, and we've noticed, to save time, the contractors will try to straight form it, and the straight forms are always off, and you have little bends all around the curve, and it just looks trashy, so we're requiring bendable forms on that just to make the sidewalks look nicer. That also applies to curbs. I've seen some pretty horrific curbs where they've tried to do that. Not as much, more on sidewalks. So, finally, street lights. One thing that we're hearing a lot from residents is that if their streets are too dark, that they're kind of unhappy with things, and they like these decorative street lights more often or around. And so we have this 400-foot requirement, but we also have a requirement where you put them at every intersection. And sometimes if you have maybe 2 streets intersections at 600 feet across, then you might have a light every 300 feet. And so we had some minimums that just didn't need to be there. We just said, well, we want them at least 400 feet across and apart from each other. And we had some conflict with one developer who felt like, his street light, because we had 2 intersections that were, I want to say, 550 feet across. A street light in the middle would have been 225, and our minimum was 250. So we're breaking our standard by requiring that, and so we just took that out. So, and then finally, we're fine-tuning our landscaping standard along city roads. As if you're on a collector arterial with the wall, the city's responsible for that landscaping. We're trying to make it easier to maintain and have fabric underneath it. Another thing that we've done in our overall cross-section is we moved the wall onto the exact property line. Before, we used to try to put the wall inside of the city right-of-way. But since we've gone away from the lighter weight walls and we have the masonry walls, we have bigger footings, and we've noticed developers are trying to put the whole footing inside of the right-of-way, and the landscaping strip between the trail or the sidewalk and the wall just kept getting narrower and narrower until you can't really put anything in there. And we feel like that's an important landscape strip to have bushes and things in to kind of break up the monotony of the wall. And so by putting the wall on the property line, then that solves that problem. So those are the major changes. There's quite a few others. If you're really bored, you can go look through. But.
Thanks, Chris. We're in public hearing for this, or do we need to go in public hearing?
We need to go into public
You have
hearing.
motion for public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilmember Beck to go into public hearing for amendments to the construction standards. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing. Sir, to talk about this. Travis, you want to say anything? No? He's good. Okay.
Motion to go out of public hearing.
Motion, I'll second that. Motion to go out of public hearing by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilman Mendenhall to go out of public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Chris, were the contractors that you had present for a meeting, were a lot of these things discussed? Remember when you and city staff, specifically your engineering department and your inspectors, brought in a lot of the home builders and people that perform a lot of these duties? Were they a voice in some of these changes?
So we collect these changes over a year, and usually they come out of some interaction that we've had with a contractor or a developer. I know that's occurred on several, especially on the 60-degree requirement. We've met with a few different ones. As far as one big meeting that we've held, for this last revision, we haven't, I'm not aware of any big meetings that we held specifically for standards, but we've certainly held a few over the years on some of these changes.
And how will they gain word of it? How will they find out when they submit plans to you and or Dave's office? Or is there some sort of a memo change that takes place?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think Brandon's cognizant of the facts that very few contractors or developers are watching the city council meeting. Probably fewer yet are downloading the agenda and going through these changes. The way that we try to handle that, because the standards change, it's a very living document, is we have what's called a pre-construction meeting. And in the pre-construction meeting, anything that gets missed a lot or is new, we try to put it in the agenda and go over it with the contractors and kind of give them a heads up warning. And hopefully the inspector, as he meets with them every week and goes through the project, can give them a little bit of warning or reminder as well at that point. But
I think I'm thinking of asphalt, since there's so many asphalt changes, that if I was in a pre-construction meeting and I did a proposal with a different mix, I bid it with a different mix, and it's a different PG mix, that may be a tough one, and so maybe in the pre-bid meetings, as long as it's going to be spelled out in the specifications. So I just wondered if there was some sort of a process.
We'll debate that internally, how we could possibly send out some sort of warning or,
Perfect, thank you.
Just maybe on that, the engineering firms that do most of the work in town, I think, stay pretty up to date with changes that we make to our standards and things like that. So at least ones that are involved on designing new projects, they're going to be operating consistently off the latest and greatest. So I think.
Well, I think the only other one that I would have a problem with is the painted wall. I have a masonry wall in my backyard, and I want to paint it green and make it look like the Green Monster. I don't know if your department's going to have an issue with that, Dave, or not. Maybe I should just ask Chris.
This an antidote.
Fine him.
For that kind of.
Fine him?
Really,
that's a private wall. You do what you want with it.
Thank you, Junior. You hear that?
you can paint over paint.
You hear that, Anderson?
This doesn't affect.
The Green Monster shall live. Just got to get past my wife.
Great work, and I know our city, when I talk to developers in the industry, and I know some of us do as well, but they appreciate, developers and builders appreciate the work your offices do in communicating with them and trying to uphold a standard here that keeps things nice and good looking and makes a nice development that only helps them sell better in the end and do well. So you're right, communication on that's the key. No other questions? No. Anybody want to make a motion? I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve Ordinance 1318 authorizing amendments to the construction standards of the city as outlined by Mr. Thompson.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mendenhall, second by Councilmember Beck to approve Ordinance 1318. This is a roll call vote. Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall, aye. Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
That passes. That takes us to number 9, new business. We've done that. We've adopted the budget revision number 3, so we'll skip that and have a motion to adjourn to redevelopment agency if someone wants to do that.
So move. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Beck and seconded by Councilman Gordon to go to redevelopment agency. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Argyle to approve the consent items of the redevelopment agency. Roll call vote. Am I right on that? No, I'm off that. Consent items. Motion to approve the consent items. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item B, adopt the fiscal year 2019 RDA budget. Kent's up again.
Let me look at it.
Okay, with a bunch of different budgets over the last couple weeks, I want to kind of straighten out which ones we're doing and which ones we're not doing. So a few minutes ago, you amended 18's budget for the final revision, and that's going to finish out the end of this year. Next year's FY19 for the city, we are postponing approving that budget. You approved the tentative budget in May. We've had a public hearing on it, and now we're going to have a truth and taxation public hearing on August 7th to hold the property tax rate at the last year's rate. And so we're not adopting officially the property tax rate and the budget until August. But for 19, we're going to adopt the RDA's portion. It's a different budget that I have to send in to the state auditor. So we'll adopt this one tonight, and I'll send it off to the state auditor in the right time frame. We'll wait and adopt the city's 19 in August, and then I'll send that one off after that gets adopted. Okay, so for right now, we're going to do 19's RDA budget to discuss it. So it's mostly the same as last year's because there's a couple of big projects that's being done right now. One is the big road out there in between the show house and Sapa or Hydro, whatever, how do you say that? Hydro, something like that. It's one of those? Yeah.
Kirby Building.
The Kirby Building. It's called the Kirby RDA, clear back from when the Kirby was there. So that road's being constructed right now. So we've budgeted some of this money in 2 different years, not knowing exactly which year the invoices are going to come in. And so that's why it looks like this year's budget looks a lot like last year's budget, is because it's close to the same budget. We have 4 active RDA areas. One is the North Industrial, which is North Main Street, down to Capstone in that area. We have some funds in there that when they improve around the airport on the Main Street side, we can use those funds for that. And so we have a couple $1 million that we can go towards those type of projects in that area. We've been collecting the money, and those are some good projects we can use that for. So you'll probably see those funds being budgeted. Well, we budget them not knowing exactly when that's going to be. We can anticipate when that is. So we budgeted $1.2 million in this budget, anticipating when that improvements are going to be done. So the Kirby Lane one has 1.7. Some of that is being spent right now, and so we'll see what's left to be spent to finish the road in next year's, which that will cover. Okay, and then the Wasatch Wind. Let's jump over. Yeah, so the fourth one over is Wasatch Wind. That was an 8-year RDA. We're in the last year, so this will be the last year of it, and it's only a partial year of it. And we share that with the school district as far as we pay the windmills their portion of what they generate, a royalty, and that's the way the RDA, the property tax, goes back to the windmill owners for 8 years, and this is the last year that we'll do that, and then they'll take their part, and then that RDA, or I guess they call it a CDA, will close, and that value. So if you can see, it's $200,000 that's in the Wasatch Wind. That's the increment money that we have to work with, and we split that with the windmill and the school district. When that goes away, that $200,000 then will go back to the normal split up between 70 or 80% to the school district. We get 10%, the county get part of it. So it'll fall back into the normal channel of what property tax goes after this year. The other two, Sierra Bonita is the Young Living one. Last year was the first time we helped with their portion of their increment to them, and that'll go on for a couple more years. It's around $150,000 to $200,000, depends on the value that they get. And then the last one is the Corona CRA, and that one is the development in Canyon Creek, and that development with the sales tax that we're sharing. Last year in 18 we budgeted $600,000. That's what they projected that they were going to collect during that year, and the percentage share that we would give with them. And with reality, we only got a part of a year, so it's only, they started in September is when they started to really collect money. By the time we get it, so it's only really half a year, and it's less than $625 that we paid them for that year. The projection for next year will be a full 12 months, and so it's $925 is what they're thinking about, is what their sales tax portion is going to be. The haircut percentage off starts to come off. Last year they got 100% of whatever they collected. And this next year it goes down 5% per year for 5 years, and then it's done, and then the city will take the whole amount. So next year we're budgeting $925. We'll wait and see. I think that's going to be enough to cover what they're going to ask for as far as the sales tax. So anyway, that's the RDA for 2019.
Did you say the Kirby one is almost done too?
It is. The Kirby one and North Industrial, it was a 20-year.
Okay.
So we're getting close to a 20-year on those.
Two. Okay.
So they're near. And on those older ones, those are the very first ones we did, there's haircut provision on that. It drops down to we're about 60%. So that other 40% is already flowing to the school district and stuff. And so we only get to work with the 60% that's left over after that.
Thank you, Kent.
I move we approve fiscal year 2019 RDA budget.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Argyle to approve and adopt the fiscal year 2019 RDA budget. Does this need to be a roll call vote? Or? Okay, roll call vote. Councilman Argyle?
Aye.
Councilman Gordon?
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall? Aye. Councilmember Beck?
Aye.
That passes. Item C, adopt fiscal year 2018 RDA budget revision number 1, revising
We're not gonna do
2018.
So the number didn't need to be changed. So we're going to let it finish out the way it is, and we don't have to have a public hearing or amend it or anything, so we just ignore that.
Strike that one? Okay. We don't need to worry about that.
I move we reconvene to City Council.
Second.
Motion to convene back to reconvene to City Council by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilmember Beck. All in favor say aye. Aye. We're back in council meeting. Number 12, discussion, item A, the special event request at the Spanish Fork Reservoir.
All right, thank you. We have a unique special event request. We don't have any requirements to approve this, but we don't always bring special requests here, but this special request has some special requests. So
Special.
It's extra special. First of all, there's a private group that would like to do an event here in August, about the middle of August on a Saturday, whatever that one is, the 11th-ish. Yeah, I think it's the 11th is what they're kind of focusing in on. They'd like to have a concert, set up a stage here on the beach facing the water, and then they'd like to set up a rock wall for a rock wall climbing competition. So you and I wouldn't be able to do it unless we signed up for the competition. So it's not just like a free-for-all, but I guess they have competitions in the water, the pool of the Park City ski jumps. They have a 50-foot wall there, and they have a climbing competition. And basically, it's a heat competition. So Councilwoman Beck and I would go against each other, and when she beats me to the top, then she would move on to the next heat, and then you two would go against each other, and then you two would go against each other, and just keep progressing. They're proposing to fabricate some 30-foot wall, not 50, but a 30-foot wall. Somehow secure it from here down into the water. All right, so that's the gist of what the event is. They would like to close the reservoir. They'd like to close the reservoir down here, or even down here further. At the entrance, there's a gate, we can close it down in the wintertime, maybe even close it down there and take entry fees at that point, and then people would come in, park, and enjoy the activities of the day, food trucks and a few other things like that. So as we talked with them, we said, look, there are really two issues. One, this is not a closed facility today. We don't have in our policies that the reservoir can be shut down to the public unless the city has done 2 events there, I believe, or if there's some kind of a safety issue. But we have not yet created it as a fee-for-use facility, like, say, somebody can rent the sports park, somebody can rent the pavilion at the North Park, they can rent the facility at the fairgrounds. So that's one thing that you would need to consider and change between now and then in order for them to be able to do that. Second one, the bigger issue is the safety of the facility. Having a concert on the beach, that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother us at all. It would be facing the water, so they'd like to do it during the heat of the day. Some people will be in the water for a while, so they might get a little cold and they want to come out. We talked about renting inner tubes and different things, making that available in case, say, Councilman Argyle goes and doesn't remember to bring an inner tube. We don't want him just hanging out on the log that entire time. Right. But then this rock wall probably is the thing of the most concern and a discussion that we've had with them. It's not built yet, it's not designed yet. It's got an engineer that's working on it, at least conceptually, with him. And we talked about a handful of concerns that they'd have to meet. If it were to at all be considered for approval on the risk management side, they'd have to meet a couple of things. And they haven't given us anything yet that meets this. So they're still, I assume, working on it from our meeting that we had last week. But here they are. If you have 10 feet of water, you can pretty much fall into it safely. So it has to be able to, these are at least the things we kind of talked about. It'd have to be able to be out far enough into the water such that they'd have 10 feet of water depth when they fell. So if you go into the reservoir, it's got a slope, let's assume that's like this, and you can walk out here 5 feet and you're really only up to your knees in water. Then you start to slide, right? Because the sides are a little bit mossy, and so you slide down, and you're out 10 feet of water, but you're still only 5 or 6 feet in depth. So it'd have to hang out over the water quite a ways, and we told him to have his engineer come up. The slope is what the slope is, so you can easily calculate, how far out that thing would have to go. They would rope it off, so they talked about putting it in this area. They would rope the area off, so if Councilman Argyle is swimming on the log, he can't paddle his way over, get into it. They would have kayakers in the water to help people when they are done, and in case somebody had a problem. There'd only be 2 people in at a time. But then it has to be secured. So another challenge that they have to overcome if they're going to do it is the slope is like this, And the feet on that thing would follow the slope, and the downward thrust is on mossy cement. So if you've ever tried to stand up on that, you watch people, they slide down. So it's going to be kind of hard to do. So they'd have to really cantilever that thing from the above the reservoir and in the dirt even, some kind of a structure there. Because we said one of the requirements they would have is they couldn't tack into the cement at all. I said, let's start with the assumption that you can't cut into the cement at all. Maybe they could, based on some of the advice from our engineering staff and the company that helped us build it. I said, let's start with, you can't go into the cement at all. And if we were to allow something else, it would come after a lot of dialogue and okay from the engineering staff. The simple answer is to just tell them no, and we're totally fine with that. This isn't an event that we're creating and wanting to do. It is kind of cool, and we think certainly is a fun event that could be something the public might enjoy, but comes with it a few issues. I think it's funny that Councilman Gordon is our like de facto council member risk manager, yet some of the stories that I've heard.
Yes.
Those are what convinced him into the insurance world to assess risk, is after he took
You think
that
Steve
many
Adams
risks.
was always a good boy back there? Some Boy Scout? Come on. Eagle. I'm an Eagle as well. Okay. But
Anyways,
there you have it. He
So,
just got lumped into the same
alcohol?
category.
No alcohol.
We would not allow alcohol there today. If you wanted to change that, we could, but we don't allow alcohol at any city facility except for the golf course. That's the only public facility we own where we allow alcohol today.
And the band? Is it a pop? No.
Okay. Not at the reservoir, though. Sorry, what was that?
Is it a popular band, or?
So they would have a number of bands play throughout the day,
okay.
and he said local artists that you might see at places like Velour and other venues, but he didn't have anybody. I don't think they have anybody inked.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm guessing that they're probably just
Comprehended a fee?
for the space. No, I mean yes. I don't have one to say to you right now, do this, because I don't know that we want to do that. But it'd be similar to renting out a good portion of the sports park for a day. I think would be, if we're going to do it, something similar to that.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even know if I have an opinion.
I'm a hard no.
Party versus risk.
I'm a hard no.
Party versus risk.
I don't want to turn our reservoir into a color festival. People go up there and they camp. So you've blocked off your camping sites. You've blocked off your gun club. You're creating the rock wall completely. You've named all of the reasons why we should have a rock
talked about
wall.
putting a Whibbit on this side.
The Whibbit's absolutely a wonderful idea in a different discussion environment. But for me, I think it, and Chief could back up numbers. We spend a lot of time up there policing things. I took my kids up there to fish 2 Saturdays ago, and it's busy. It's busy. We ended up going down to Canyon View Park and caught fish, but there was not a parking space to be found, and so which means I'm taking away the opportunity for the people that normally use that on a Saturday to have to pay, and I don't like the idea of that. When we do rent our other venues, there's like sports park, there's other options, or the rodeo arena, it's specific, right? So
that is a big deal. I mean, like I said, we haven't set this up as a fee and rental facility yet. It's been in operation now for 14 years.
Really?
I got here in 2004, and it was open in 2004. So.
I think my last real reasoning behind it is it's less than 2 months away, and we're still don't have. I just think a rock wall would leave an impact on our area that I don't even have an idea of what we're talking about yet. We're anchoring it into the side of the bank and telling them, no, you don't drill into concrete. And so we told I just have a lot of issues right now.
And we told them we aren't we wouldn't approve anything, but if there is a no, we can give you a stop, just stop now. But if there is a, we're interested in seeing more, then we can do that as well.
Was parking addressed?
So if you go up there, there is, I can't remember now the number Bart told me. You have all of this area here, and then, Scott, would you mind zooming up?
But I thought you said that they would block that off at the gate below.
Down lower.
So where will everyone park?
At the gun club.
Drag it that way. I knew you were going to do that. Drag it the other way. I know, it's just backwards. Sorry. It's my bad, Scott.
Charging enough to rent the gun club and the reservoir.
So, yeah, because you would probably you should probably shut down the camping the night before. Otherwise, they'd have to shoo them out by, I don't know. So you could factor in that we're shutting all of this down, right, and all of this down. And we've checked that they aren't combining or competing against a major shoot. But with the parking that's from this area here, and then back here and here, you've got about 120 stalls. They talked about possibly parking out here if they could get permission from that landowner. That if we were going to do that, that would be up to them to arrange that. They were talking about getting. They'd like to have 2,000 people there through the course of the day. I think that's I think that's aggressive for the event. But I mean, that's the number they're using. So we'll use that for now. Like I said, I think it's an aggressive number of people coming, especially a year one type of a thing. But if I'm them and I go through the expense of fabricating some wall to go there, I got to do it multiple years, right? Because somehow I'm going to have to recover the costs associated with it. So I would assume if they were to do it, then we would have, we should expect that they would want to come back next year if it's at least semi-successful for them, and if we obviously agree to let them come back.
So all the campgrounds would have to be shut.
At least for one day, whether it's the day before or the
Saturday,
day.
though?
If it's the day before or the day after, we'd have to work that out with them. But yeah, so I would factor that into the price that we would charge them. And I'm not standing here in front of you saying we should do it. I'm standing here in front of you with it. We can tell them no easily, but I don't like saying no to things that are unique and different just because they're unique and different. I think
Neither do I, but what we're doing is planning this event for them.
No, we're not.
Well, in a way, we somewhat have to. I understand that, to come up with fees to be able to shut down the campground and shut down the gun club and all of these things. But 2,000 people to make your party pencil, well, if they come in for 4 people to a car, that's 500 cars. You just told me we can only have 120 people park up there, and so yeah, it's coming and going a lot.
So there would be, and they would probably want to have some parking here. A concern I have, if you go downhill and you have, if it's at all successful, and you shut it down at this point, that would be a bottleneck, and so you'd have a traffic bottleneck for the residents of that area as cars queue up to come in.
Glad my parents don't live up there. Anyway.
I'm going to say no for the same reasons, because of it's our cities. I'm guaranteed I've rolled up, there's always people there. So we would actually be removing them.
Well, we would.
People
you're talking the campsite?
Yeah, there's always people there during the summer, and it's like Brandon says, it's busy. So we would be in that Spanish Fork Reservoir.
All right, I will tell them that we're not interested in closing the facility.
But to not sound like complete no's, I just feel like there's not enough. You didn't give me anything, and you gave me less than 2 months to make a decision. That's really, I'm not a fun hater.
If they want to, I do. I've got pictures. That probably sounded bad. I'll tell them if they want to do it, that you need to take the next year and understand better what you will do. Come to us with a more concrete proposal and get a better idea of what the wall would look like. That's obviously a concern for all of us. I think it would be awesome.
to have that
It would be a
be
cool.
there. It would be a cool thing to have.
Concert's really cool.
Can you imagine a picture from the concert stage that's got the thing in the background with the mountain in the background? I mean, that's one of the prettiest spots of Spanish Fork. It would be a cool place to have something like that.
But I think that's great feedback, and we can tell them to,
Don't stop planning.
but push it back.
Don't stop believing, really, is what you meant to say.
That's what
Go
I
get
said.
Journey,
Yeah.
or Three Dog Night, or Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, I'm raging.
Are there 3 dogs, or have we gone? Are there just 1 or 2?
You'd have to go back in the mayor era, and he's not here to defend his time. We've got Chad can tell us about Willie Nelson's era, and Mayor's Three Dog Night, and then Stacy
Rage.
and Mike are Rage Against the Machine.
Yep.
Is Mike Rage or is he Backstreet?
Mike was
Backstreet?
at the Rage venue
Oh.
and not Backstreet.
Whoa.
All right,
It's true.
let's move on to.
Backstage at the Rage event. That's right.
Last thing on the discussion agenda for today, again, just looking for some direction. We don't want you to necessarily decide anything, but we're looking for some direction. We got a resolution from Salem. We have, if you can switch to that other map for me, Scott. We have a segment of Spanish Fork. Some of you will know this and you'll remember it. Some of you may not. A handful of years ago, due to gravity and the desire for an area of Spanish Fork to develop, we entered into an agreement to send our sewer effluent to the lagoons of Salem. It sounds like a nice place, actually. Lagoons of Salem. I wouldn't swim there.
New subdivision name.
Soft landing.
They have cake. I'm just saying. So anyways, the effluent from this general area in Leland flows into the Salem lagoon treatment plant. And we are working through with developers in this area and in this area to potentially build a lift station in this area that will serve all of this area of Leland with a lift station that'll bring it over here and then gravity feed from this point back to the treatment plant. And when we started that concept a couple of years ago, we told Salem what we've done here in having this effluent flow to you is really short term. But maybe 3 to 5 years short term, but we've got a plan we're working on. And we're probably in year 2 of that short term notice that we gave them. Since we made the decision that we weren't going to keep using them. Sorry, thanks, Junior. So they are going full steam ahead, which they should be, in creating and building a sewer treatment plant to replace their lagoons at Salem with a treatment plant at Salem. It just doesn't have the same nice ring. You probably won't have a
Rodeo Arena not going to be there anymore?
Oh,
it stays?
Yeah, the sewer plant's going to be right there.
So we got their updates, and they're going through the bonding process in Salem. So I don't know all the details of what they're doing, and we don't need to. We do actually have a mole in the midst. He could probably tell us everything we wanted to know about it. Needless to say, they are preparing for a bond, and so their sewer rates are going up quite a bit, which they should. I mean, it's a big expense for them. The biggest project probably in the city's history since they jumped into the electric business maybe 100 and so years ago. I mean, this is a big deal for them. So their residents' sewer bills going up, and our residents, consequently, using their treatment plant facility, are going to go up as well. So the way we have been doing it is we just pass the cost on. It creates this group of residents that have a different sewer bill than every other resident in Spanish Fork that's served by our sewer system. And as their rates are looking to jump $9.50 this year. And staff, we've been talking about it. We don't have the answer, but we have some thoughts and some recommendations. Their bills are going to go from, it increased from $32-ish a month to $34 last year, and then it's going to go up to $43.50 starting in July.
and then it'll go up to $45.50, I think, in FY19. We don't really love that this portion of town is paying a higher sewer rate than everybody else. You look at it, it's not a large dollar amount, and we're not actually treating the water, so the cost to us would be different. But a couple of ideas. One, we can simply continue to pass the cost on to the residents as we have. These residents here, how many homes? I'm going to say right now 50-ish. But, yeah.
Potentially,
I want to say we have up to 400 units.
The contract says we can have it before.
Okay.
But we talked about going a different direction.
Yeah.
We'll have lift station one before.
Yeah. So, and we won't have many more units before this. If this development starts, it starts with the gravity feed capability, and that would trigger this other lift station. So the stage is kind of being set. So we got a couple of things we can do. We can simply continue to pass it on as we have, and their rates would go up from the $40 or $30 some to about $43.50. We could make a little bit of a change and say, we'll treat you as if you have 10,000 gallons, which is what Salem's target is. Use our rates and have 10,000 gallons. Or we can just simply treat them like a Spanish Fork sewer customer. And Salem will bill us what their bill is. And revenues from these 50 or so homes would be, whatever it is. And it would be short, $10 a home roughly. But we can just let the sewer system pay for it. Chris made a really good point in the discussion that we had. Because we're not treating their sewer right now, there's the sewer costs that we have, take into account that when I flush the toilet, take a shower, do dishes, the sewer treatment plant has costs associated with every drop of water that I send down the drain. My bill pays for that. For these guys, we aren't treating one drop of water. So, and we're getting money from them that we're not bearing costs or a number of costs for. And so there's a little bit of savings there, even if there is a gap in what we pay, in what we collect from them and what we pay to Salem. Probably the system's not too far out of whack because we aren't expending today for them what we are for all of our homes that are on the city's sewer system. So we want a little bit of direction from you. We can do a little bit more research. We can give you better numbers. We can delay. Salem's going to start this billing in July. And we can delay any action on our part, no change. We can just keep it the way it is for a month if we want some research or what questions do you have, what thoughts do you have as we're kind of putting this in front of you.
So in July it's going to go up.
Salem's bill to us
36 to 45,
and to their residents. I think you've got the resolution.
$43.50 in July, and then eventually $45.50.
Okay.
And then
it's going to jump $10 right away.
But
$9.50.
You pay $16.59 is what you're saying would be.
Yeah, we have a base charge, and then we have a per 1,000 gallons charge based on winter usage. So the assumption is in the wintertime, you're not watering your lawn, you're not doing anything outside. So all the water that you're taking in, besides the few cups of water, a gallon that you might be drinking, you're sending down the sewer lines. And so we base our sewer usage on that winter reading. And these homes here are probably going to be in the 7,000 to 10,000 gallon range a month. So whatever the base rate is,
extra
plus the
that
usage rate.
Did they know that
But
when
that
they
also-
built there? Did we communicate to them that their sewer does not go to our sewer plant and they have a different?
Probably once upon a time, but
They're not gonna.
anybody that's going to buy it for sure the second time that's not going to be communicated to them. I'd be absolutely flabbergasted.
I don't know that's ever been communicated to them, to be honest with you.
And it's
I would. That's what I was saying. You take 50 people, the math is $1,400 a month. Difference, that's 17,000 a year. If we were to say, you know, we're going to absorb that cost, or where does that cost come from?
We're subsidizing it.
Subsidize them.
I just want to point something out. So we are only maintaining collection lines here to here, and then it goes into Salem. So let's compare that to like yours or my houses. There's miles of collection lines that are maintained for your sewer and my sewer all the way to the treatment plant, whereas these people, we're only maintaining, the only cost that they really cause us is this collection line cost and no treatment. And treatment is a big part of your bill. So you might say this subsidy is probably minor, and if you tried to calculate it, we're getting into a realm of, well, should we charge the people that are right near the treatment plant less than those who are far away because they cost less money?
Where's the funds going to come from when we build a lift station down there? Impact fees?
Mostly impact fees.
There will be some developer-borne costs, right? Every development has to have sewer, so there will be some developer-borne, some impact fee.
So if
It'll be fronted in part by city as well, but we'll get.
Mapleton, they come to Spanish Forks. So how do we come up with a rate then in terms of, like you say, we're treating theirs. We're not just passing. They're not paying the same amount we are up there either. To your argument, right?
Right. So with Mapleton, what we do is we take the treatment plant overall cost, and then we take Mapleton's flow proportionate to our flow, and we split that cost accordingly. So it's a very fair way of doing it. Here, I think we could spend a lot of time deciding if they cost more or less, and maybe they cost a little bit more than the other resident, but someone who lives closer to the treatment plant costs less than someone who lives further away. Someone with 8 kids costs more than someone with 2 kids. Eventually you just say the average and go, and that's what I'd recommend here, especially where we're very soon to build a lift station that would take them completely off the Salem. I would suggest let's treat everyone the same. And
So just give them the same rates everyone else is already paying?
Exactly.
That's what I think too.
Well, and I understand that, but I guess what I'm getting at is, can Salem measure and do the same thing that we're doing with Mapleton and say, because is there, if we're going to pay the 45, should we technically pay less?
We would have to spend a lot of money in metering to set up that system for a year. It wouldn't be worth it.
Is their bill going to go up? Well, right now they're paying what? What are they paying now? Just a flat?
It would go down a little bit.
Actually go down a little bit, okay.
Not
From
a
what
lot.
their bill is right now that we're collecting based on.
On our sewer rates, you're saying that there would be no Salem. There's a Salem City sewer
Just
plant.
remove that tier completely and just treat them like the rest of the residents. I think we don't want to go to a place where we say, well, if someone costs more on sewer or water, like, I think that's a level of study and detail I think it'd be best to just stay out of.
I guess my feeling is it's okay with 50 homes there, and you say this might be changed before 100 homes are there, or if 100 homes, but 400 homes, now that's different than $17,000 a year that we're subsidizing those folks.
So we can tell you right now, we can give you a sense of that right now. We don't have any development plans that would add to this today, right? Okay. I mean, other than the homes, the lots that are approved in Old Mill, and they don't have many left. Like I said, the next big development in the area is in the old gravel pit, and that would trigger the change. Within a year of them starting, that would trigger the change. And then once that change happens, there's a development out in that area that's looking to come as well. So I mean, we're crystal balling, and I guess if we had more homes come in before we went off of this, we'd have to come back and say, hey, this is, what we've set up isn't working because the numbers have.
And I would say the 17,000 doesn't include the fact that we have very little collection system that we are maintaining for all of the fee that they pay, and no treatment. So
that might be more like
so
5.
You need to erase all of that out of there, and it's probably just a small number that it's not worth doing.
So then for me, I think I would rather see it stay the same for now until we have more definitive on the station. Keep them on the Salem, what we've been charging. Don't go to the 45, but continue somewhere around the 30, and then say, show me the lift station, because if that doesn't happen, and we've lowered you down to 16, and now we have this sort of indefinite number of 50, 60, 70 homes that we subsidize for. There's just no guarantee for me that the lift station happens.
Well, that's not where Salem rate is going to end either. It's going to be graduated until it gets up to 54.
Okay, so for every...
So why do we, like I said, this is a discussion item, not an action item, because we got this late, sometime last week, and want to chat through this. Why don't we put together a couple of different tables that identify costs and where they're going, get a count of homes, and then maybe a count of homes that may be coming or lots that are available in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, so we have a sense of where things are going, we get a better picture, and we can do some of the math in there as well, that the system may be short X or Y dollars, and we can get a better sense of that. Do you want us, we can make no change to the sewer rates though in July.
But in July, their rate will go up, correct?
Right. Yeah, we can delay our effect, and it would if we decide to go up, we'd be out $10 times the 50 homes, so we'd be out $500, which I'd rather err on the side of that for the resident than bump it up and then come back down.
So right now, does Salem City send us the bill for their, and then we pay that? And then
we're their billing agent.
Then we bill each of them. Okay. So we're not going to change that then in the next, till we discuss
Well,
this,
we
right?
decide that, right?
Yeah.
So my recommendation, at least for the moment, would be let's not make a change for July. Let's get you some other numbers and bring it on as an action item for the July 10 meeting, where you've had the numbers, you've got the numbers presented to you. We can talk through it, and then we'll outline maybe 2 or 3 different possibilities. You can make a 4th if you want as well, and we can go from there.
I like that.
You comfortable with that?
Like that.
Sounds great.
Okay. All right.
Those rates are going to happen to the Salem residents, whether the economy stalls and home building stalls, or what?
Rates are going to go up fast, and it may go up higher than that. But
Yeah.
if it maintains for 2 years, then they'll be able to maintain it at 54.
So I think it's worth pointing out, we went through this, I want to say in the late 90s, Kent? It was in the 80s when we made the major change to our treatment plant.
The sewer bonds on the utility bill.
So we went through this in our city's life cycle and history, and now it's their turn. And it was a huge deal. $18 in the 80s was.
That was the bond. And then there still was the sewer.
Okay. Yeah.
This is all being driven by the new state standards with phosphorus and nitrates.
Microphone.
Provo is doing a new plant, and they're looking at between $90 and $100 a month. Look at the size they are.
State standards that want to go from 0.1 to 0.01?
No, from 4 to 0.1.
And they're saying there's a possibility in the future to go to 0.01. But right now, I don't know what it is, but it's going from pretty much unregulated to 0.1.
No, to 1. To 1.
0.1. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
I move we go into closed session for reasonably imminent litigation and land transaction.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilmember Beck to go into closed session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Who was with me earlier that said we'd get out at 8:17?
Someone said that?
I did.